All right. So it is 7:07 on August 4th, 2020, and this is a public hearing to review the amendments made to Bristol's current zoning regulations to include subdivision regulations, and the resulting document is will be referred to as Bristol Unified Development Regs. So basically this is an amendment that does 5 things, and 5 major things. The first is to include subdivision regulations into our existing zoning regulations. We also are changing the makeup of the Board of Adjustment will be dissolved, and we would have a development review board. There are some changes to the definitions in Article 10. The review process, because of this change, needs to be altered, and that's in Article 3. And then in Article 6, there's a new section on on-farm accessory businesses, which was not in the document before. So those are the substantial changes, and there are other changes in the document, but they're small and not considered substantial. So I can't really go through. I mean, basically we're here for review and questions and clarification. So I'm pretty much opening this up to the public, or if anyone else on the board has anything to say now, or I'm opening up to the public. So the public is welcome to ask questions, make comments, and you can address them to anybody on the board you like. Brenda.
Well, since nobody else seems to be asking a question, so I'd like a brief summary about why you changed it. I have thought for a while that the zoning board hasn't been doing much of anything the last couple of years, and that if we had a development review board, that might work out. But it looks like you also are still keeping the planning commission. And if you do, because it refers to it under certain things, and if you do keep the planning commission, what will that do? And the second thing is, if it looks like, for the most part, that the development review board is doing the same things that the zoning board of adjustment was doing, and except adding the subdivision regulations. And will the zoning board, the present zoning board, be invited to become part of the development review board if they wish, or will it be just open to everybody? And how are you planning to do that? And if I've missed what the point of this is, please tell me.
Well, you didn't miss the point. I think clarification is a big piece of this meeting. Chris, did you want to say something to that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you want, I can clarify what the rationale behind moving to the DRB is. The first piece of it is we needed to implement subdivision regulations. Without them, the Act 250 was being triggered for projects in our community that it really didn't need to be. We're one of the few towns left that don't have subdivision regulations. It increases the threshold from a 1 acre commercial project to a larger number. And it also increases the number of actual lots that can be built without triggering. I think it goes from 6 to 10. Those are 2 big reasons behind it. As far as organizational structure goes, Brenda, you were right on track that the initial intent is to offer those that sit on the zoning board an opportunity to sit there. And with the select board sitting down and figuring out the proper makeup of those boards. The Planning Commission will be doing just what it should be doing, which is planning. They will be focusing on the town plan and amending zoning regulations. The DRB would be handling all public hearings, whether it's a boundary line adjustment, whether it is a subdivision or a planned unit development or anything along those lines, similar to what you all have been doing now, but adding into the new responsibilities of subdivisions.
Thank you.
And I think that basically you would get first right of refusal if you wanted to be on that board. And I haven't actually talked to Kevin. I don't know if you have, but I think that, that's something that we would work out after this document moves forward and gets approved. It needs to be approved by the voters as well.
Yeah, that was the intended path forward, was to offer the positions to the existing ZBA if they would like to sit on, and then fill any remaining positions with anyone from the public who would be interested in joining.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Helen.
I have downloaded the new, let me get to the title, Unified Development Regulations draft. And within the past year, I've read the previous Planning Commission draft. And what I would love is because they're very similar, is there any version that highlights the differences that are being proposed? I looked at quite a few sections of the previous plan and the proposed plan, and they look the same. So I'm trying to figure out where, for instance, where are the new development zoning areas proposed or will be allowed? I can't find that in the new report.
Can I ask a clarifying question? You're comparing the zoning regulations, the existing zoning regulations with the unified development regs.
Exactly.
Okay, so some things aren't as obvious, but there are. Adam, do you want to just explain? I mean, I listed the different articles, but.
Sure, I can try and answer your question, Helen. And I'm Adam Lucci. I'm director of the Addison County Regional Planning Commission, and I helped your Planning Commission rewrite the draft. So I would tell you that section Article 9, subdivision, is the biggest change. But prior to this, you did not have an Article 9 that included subdivisions. Okay?
And where is Article 9 in the report? Do you have a page number?
Yeah, I could put it up on the screen.
Okay.
Would you like that?
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Okay.
Page 80.
Okay.
80.
So Article 9 runs from page 80 basically to page 95.
Okay.
That will be your biggest change. Actually, I'll just run through it. And the Planning Commission produced a memo basically along with this, and a lot of your things did not change. So Article 1 did not change, basically. It did not substantially change. And that's your enactment, intent, and organization. And that goes from page 8 to 11. Article 2, which is your zoning and your zoning map, the vast majority of it didn't change. So it's not like they enabled new development or changed your zones. Article 2 stayed largely the same. They did make a couple of use changes. For example, they permitted outdoor recreation as a permitted use in several districts to accommodate the desire for a trail around Bristol. So that was one change they made, but overall, Article 2 stayed largely the same. Article 3 was a place where we did make some changes because we wanted to incorporate the subdivision regulations in your review process. So Article 3 governs your review process, and we did make some changes there. Also, that's where a lot of the changes were that go from a zoning board of adjustment to a DRB. And the duties that Brenda was asking about, the changes described there a little bit. She was right. It basically adds subdivision to the DRB's responsibility.
So can I stop you 1 minute?
Absolutely.
If I look at the zoning map and then the accompanying chart that shows what is permitted in each of the different zoning areas.
Yes.
If subdivisions are now going to be permitted in that area, it will say subdivisions in the description of that zoning area?
No, the subdivision of land was always permitted in all of your districts, and still is. Prior to these proposed regulations, the subdivision of land had to meet basically the standards in Article 2. So had to meet lot size and setback and things of that nature. What this does is requires subdivision to meet some more, I guess I would call them substantive so it has to address land use impacts. It has to address natural resource impacts. It has to talk about roads and traffic, infrastructure that it needs to put in, depending upon the size. It may be something big, it may be something small. So that's what the subdivision regulations do.
Okay. I would have to go back to the...
I would say it's also another way of reviewing. It's just another level of not really another level of review, but another way of looking at a project, and another way the town can review a project. And they're not as limited, perhaps, by, as Chris was saying before, we have more local control basically over certain projects. And certain projects would not have to go through the Act 250 process, but all the standards for each area and the dimensions and the acreage are the same. That isn't changing. It's the process of.
So why are the Act 250 regulations, the compliance to Act 250 changing? Why does the subdivision regulation change what?
Because I guess I'll answer that for you, Helen.
Yeah, thanks.
Under the state statutes, the thresholds for what constitutes development subject to Act 250 has different tiers. And if a town has both subdivision and zoning, they've decided that the town is sophisticated enough to review bigger projects. So by adding subdivision, that basically would put you in a different tier of your review, which is what Chris was speaking about earlier.
Yeah, Helen, currently the process, if you owned a 20-acre parcel of land and you wanted to subdivide it into 4 pieces, all you had to do is generate a map that met the 5-acre minimums and submit it to my office, and it was an administrative change that was approved at my desk. Now what happens is, if you want to subdivide a piece of land, it actually goes to a hearing, and there's a more detailed process that would require, as Adam said before, that we're going to look at a large variety of impacts that development might have. Currently, the only impact we worried about was there enough dirt? And now this really makes it, is it the right use for our community?
Excellent. That's great. Thanks.
But then there is also, and correct me if I don't have this exactly right, but for commercial development, if you had a commercial development which was on a lot that was bigger than 1 acre, it had to go through the whole Act 250 process. So, which is a much more extensive, much more expensive process. And that a lot of people felt that was inhibited, and expensive, and it was a negative for our community. We still have the oversight as a board to make sure it would be a proper project. And that's why the subdivision has those other checks in it. It's sort of a balance. but it really comes down to locally reviewing and deciding what is the best for the community. Any other questions? Yeah. No. How long do I wait? I mean, the board can make a comment too if they'd like, or we can just close the public hearing. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Okay. All in favor?
I
Second, please.
second.
You can't, Helen, sorry.
All on the board.
I'll second.
Okay, Rob, I think Rob seconded it.
Okay.
Okay, now all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have closed the public hearing on the Unified Development Regs. And so we are now going to move to our regular meeting. And people can stay if they'd like, or you can leave, but you're welcome to stay. So we're going to, and I think you're going to go, right, Adam?
I have one question for you, or one request of you're in your regular meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be if you heard enough at the public hearing tonight and are ready to move these regulations, the draft of these regulations forward to the select board, I'd ask that you make a motion and pass that motion and let us know, and then we can basically inform the select board and get a notice out for their next meeting so that we can get these on the ballot in November.
Okay, thank you. I was gonna do that next, and we've spoken to, I've spoken to Valerie, and she's all ready to get the notice out if we move forward as a board to do that. So.
Thank you. So I'm gonna leave you now.
Okay, thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Good night. Nice to see you.
Okay. So that is what we should do next. Well, actually, let me look at my agenda. Okay, we actually have to open our regular meeting now. So, don't I, Chris? Yes, we don't. We do, we don't. Okay, I'm now going to open the regular meeting of the Planning Commission, Bristol Planning Commission, for August 4th, 2020. And it is 7. You are taking notes, right, Bill?
I am.
Good. 7:25.
Got it.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is just see if there's anything anyone wants to add, any agenda changes or anything, adjustments, removals. Yes? No?
Katie, or are you Sharon or Katie?
Well, I'm both.
Okay. I moved.
I'm gonna stay with Sharon for tonight.
Okay.
And she doesn't take any, anything from anybody.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I was going to move that Jeffrey has the most peaceful environment from which to broadcast.
Yeah, I'd like to be there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
That's all.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So the next thing is we need to approve the minutes from July 7th and July 21st. So I sent them to everybody, and if anyone has any comments on those, now's the time. If not, someone can make a motion to move to approve them.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for July 7th and July 21.
A second? Okay, Rob seconds it, and so does Tom. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Minutes for September 7th and September 21st, 2020 are approved.
July 7th, July
I'm
20th.
sorry, I don't know why I think it's September. July 7th and July 21st are approved.
Yeah, and it was brought to my attention, apparently I've been remiss in my duties and have not posted the meeting minutes in a while. So I will take care of that this week and get the website updated with all the meeting minutes.
Okay, great. So I thought that, is Bill sending you those minutes, the draft minutes? Okay. Got it. All right. So the next thing is we need to, since we had our public hearing, our next job is to vote to, I mean, we essentially approved the document 7/7/2020. That was in the meeting, in the minutes. So we as a board approved that document and moved it to a public hearing. What we need to do now is to make a motion to move this document to a second public hearing, first public hearing with the select board. And that on the schedule that we talked about earlier would be on the, I believe, the 24th. Wait a second. It's on the 24th of August. Is that right, Chris? Do you remember? I know I have it here. I just don't. Yep.
I'm looking right now, yeah.
Yep, the 24th of August. So basically the warning needs to get in the paper this week, and Valerie already set it up. So they have it, but it's not, it's not in the paper yet. So, and the select board knows about it and has already received copies, but we haven't gotten any comments back from them yet.
Yeah.
So everyone has the document, all the towns have the document. And they only have to do one hearing on this. It's the plan they need to do too. But if they want to make any changes, then this gives us at least one meeting time, because I think we have until September 21st. Do you know for sure, Chris?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. Jeff?
Has the select board seen the UDR yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When after our, not our last meeting, but the one before, we're required to send the document out to all of the abutting towns. And we also made a point of getting it to the select board. And so it was on their agenda. I don't even think it was, or maybe it was the last meeting. Just they know that this is happening. Valerie has informed them of it. They have received copies.
Great.
So they're very aware of it. So if someone would like to make a motion to move this along to a public hearing with the select board, that'd be great. And I can't do it.
So moved.
Yeah, you have to give me wording. Or is that it? Did we move to Planning Commission makes a motion to send the Unified Development Regs to the Select Board, Bristol Select Board, for a public hearing?
Yes, so moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Pick one of them, Bill, Rob, or Jeff.
I'll pick one. Got it.
Great. And do we have any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Is that your little thumbs up, Bill? Okay.
Aye.
Everyone said aye? All right.
As for opposed,
Opposed? I'm never going to remember how to do this, Chris. So.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
that's why I remind you.
I know, that's why you're here. Okay, so that's great. Thank you. It's on its way to the select board. Congratulations.
Question.
Jeff,
So when the select board holds this public hearing, will some or all of us be there to
it
answer
would be
questions?
good if everyone could go. Adam will probably go. I will definitely go. Chris will go. And basically, we're there to say, this is what we want. This is what we did. And, you know, why do we want, you know, so we're going to get the same questions, similar questions to, as Brenda asked, is like, why are we doing this? What is the difference? What? And, you know, it is a little complicated. So it would be good. I mean,
Sure. Makes
it's
sense.
not required, it's recommended. So, okay. Then Andrew said he would join us at 8 because he thought this would take a lot longer. But we can move forward because I have the information. So everyone, we're going to move on to discussing the implementation section. And everyone got that, I assume? That it obviously, you know, needs some tweaking and needs some work. And so I think, let's see, I'm going to put it up on my screen. And hopefully, you know, if people have questions, comments about it, we should get that worked out. Okay. Right. Can everybody see that?
Mhm.
Well, I'm gonna close this one. Okay, so I'm actually gonna text Andrew, right? Oh, I'm sorry I keep doing that. I'm not sure why. I'm gonna just text Andrew because I told him I would do that and tell him we're starting it. But we don't have to wait for him.
Maybe I have a question, please.
Yeah, let me just text, finish. I don't text as fast as I would like. Okay. Okay, Tom, go ahead.
First, I noticed there was a lot of individuals and bodies involved with this, and as far as responsibilities were concerned, I was just curious how this is all distributed and approved by these various parties.
That's a good question. I don't entirely know. This is the first time I've worked on this. This is something that I'm sure we'll talk about as we go through it. But Chris went through this before and Bill did as well. It seems like it's mostly planning commission, but in some cases it seems like that's not necessarily the right, you know, person to be responsible for all these things. And Kevin made a couple comments about that. But I think, Chris, did you actually communicate with the different boards or just kind of guess? Or
Yeah, I mean, we sort of guessed, and then we communicated after the fact that we would love, like, I look here at the Science, Historic, and Cultural Resources. We have the Historical Society, reaching out to them and asking them if they could work on this, or if it's Conservation Commission, sending out sort of where we are and what we would like them to do.
And honestly, I think we probably need to talk to them now, which I'm not sure. I sent this to Valerie, and I guess we still have time to do this, is to say, well, maybe the Historic Society has already done that. I don't know.
I actually met with Randy Duran, Earl Duran from the Conservation Commission. And I think they're very interested in meeting with you folks to, once we get this sort of as a hashed out, or get to any section where you feel that their input would be helpful, possibly to have a joint meeting with them. He seemed very, that would be a great opportunity for the two boards to work together.
After we do this. I think that's great. Any kind of, I'm definitely in support of any kind of project that we
collaborate
with other boards. I think it's a much better product.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to get through the process you all are going through, create your first draft, so it's buttoned up and ready, and then start pulling in the other boards or commissions that may have input, and work with them to refine those individual sections.
Right. So we can, we might as well just start at the beginning here and go through this and see if people have questions, instead of jumping around. And I had asked Valerie, I don't know if you and Valerie talked to Chris, but I sent this to her a couple of times. I don't know everything that's happened in the town. You probably have a better idea. Have you looked through this, or maybe some things you need to comment on and say, or other people who have been, involved for a long time, like Bill, that got done, or we decided we didn't need to do that, things like that. So
sure.
Anything we took out, or we are suggesting to take out, we had a reason for that. But that's either I'm most of this yellow is me. So it's like, and I'll tell you my reasoning, and you don't have to, you don't have to agree with me, and we can change it. So it's a discussion. So should we just start from the beginning?
Have you heard back from Andrew at all?
Excuse me?
Have you heard back from Andrew?
No, I think he's putting his kid to bed. That's what he probably is doing.
Okay.
But we talked about this, so and we can always go back. But since I actually, in the first section, I worked on this a bit, and develop a plan for elder housing. That was something that was in the last plan. That's something that I know is very much a concern for a lot of people. I added in the planning area, and Kevin, which I don't see, but I'm sure he's still here, made a comment saying, why only there? It can be anywhere. So the reason I put it there, is that the reason I added that in, but it could be worded differently, is that in thinking about doing any kind of, elderly housing can be in a lot of different ways. It can be small and maybe scattered, or it could possibly be a bigger development. But the idea of being able to walk to services and not be stuck out somewhere where you can't get anywhere. So, and the whole idea of, the compact village. And so that is why I added in the village planning area, but maybe we could word it differently. So that's why I wrote it like that. So that was a response to your comment, Kevin, if you were there.
Yeah, so I'm here. My concern with limiting it to the village planning area is there are other districts that have been stated to supplement and augment the village character with a higher density, higher densities and that sort of thing. We talk a lot about down Lover's Lane and then up north along Plank Road and all that kind of stuff. So by saying village planning area, you're in a sense saying that those areas aren't adequate. And
well, that's not what I meant. I'm happy to change it. I just stuck it in there, and it was sort of my way of saying not out and not way out, so that that it is connected to the more dense.
Yeah,
I don't know,
agree
how do
with
we
that.
word that? I think that's
And-
important.
And the other aspect of the village area is it's highly developed, so there's not a lot of opportunity as well, you know, so.
Well, how can we, let's think of a way to phrase it so that it is alluding to, or not alluding, but is referencing that it should be in the more dense developed area, or like connected to sidewalks or transit or something.
Well, so my only concern with that is, like I had somebody who chatted with me a while ago that was looking at down on 116 South, there was a parcel of land for sale, and they were looking at possibly developing it, putting in half a dozen to 10 small houses with the goal for retirees, first-time home buyers, and that's sort of what I think you're looking at here. So
Yeah, I don't
really,
think we don't want to miss any opportunities to do this, because this is something that's needed. We can just develop a plan for elder housing in town. We can just say that is fine.
throughout your community, throughout the community.
Right.
You know, you could do that, and then, you know, those considerations would be part of their
Review.
planning and review or whatever.
Right. That's fine. So, all right. I'm not as good as changing this stuff on. Well, I guess I can just.
You can delete that.
I can delete it. So how do we want to say it? Develop a plan for elder housing in town?
So, and honestly, the term elder housing doesn't work as well either. Really what it is, I mean, yes, we are seeing an aging community, but we also have a huge shortage, which you don't address in your housing and your population, of smaller
Right.
homes for first-time home buyers.
Right. This I want to make specific for that, because I think some of this other stuff addresses that, like affordable, appropriate, smaller homes that people can afford. But I think there is definitely a desire for, I think both are important. So I think, I don't know, I mean, do we not identify elder housing as a specific?
No, I think it should be identified as a specific, and develop a plan for elder housing in Bristol. You don't have to say what part of Bristol.
Right, no, that's fine. But what I did kind of jump in, Chris, sorry. But what I believe you were saying is that, you know, we do in Bristol, we need some development where we need opportunities for people to buy smaller, affordable, appropriate homes. And I think that's not just going to be individual developments, that's going to be a mixture of things.
Right. So what I was thinking on this is, because you could just change it, develop a plan for elder and startup housing in the town of Bristol would sort of cover that as sort of a big general vision.
Oops. What just happened?
So perhaps instead of elder, there was some discussion, if that's the right word, maybe senior living or something like that. And then the other aspect of that, to keep in the spirit of, you know, a higher, denser area, maybe it's a community setting or something, you know?
Well, it could be a senior community, or
maybe that's getting in too far down.
yeah.
There.
I mean, it could turn into that anyways, but I think we're just for senior housing in Bristol.
Aren't these now what is the task back in the main document state?
Hold on a second. I don't have that at my fingertips. I don't have my plan with me, my old plan with me. But it pretty much said, develop a plan. It pretty much said, develop a plan for senior housing in Bristol. Something to that nature. It was specific to senior housing.
Sure.
And now, and Kevin also made a comment, which is, once again, whose responsibility is that? That's not really, I mean, in terms of, we can say in our plan, which we do say, we have objectives saying we should do this, but we are not going to develop it. So in terms of responsibility, whose responsibility is that? It's kind of, you know, how do you get someone, you know, that with a lot of these things, we can hope that a developer will come in and say they want to do this, but we could all, I mean, that could also look into or try to encourage, you know, try to incentivize someone to come in and do that. And that would be more the select board's responsibility, I would think. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a shared responsibility. Any thoughts on that statement?
Well, I think it's really both the planning commission and the select board, but select board, maybe the select board wants to set up a committee to do this. You see, there's so many different types of elder housing. There's subsidized housing, there are commercial operations.
Yep.
It's a big, big thing.
Yeah, it is. Well, I will just add, this is one of these formatting things. I'm a little afraid to add anything that the whole thing is going to go crazy, but maybe not. How about Bill, you just write planning commission and select board, because I'm afraid I don't know how to get select board in there as responsibility.
Okay.
Well, there we go. That's. Should we move on? We can always come back.
Sure.
Okay, the next one, I'm suggesting to remove this because this is just one piece. What did I do? Okay, I replaced it with update zoning regulations to allow a variety of housing types in the village planning area, but we can change that. And this would fall under that, was my thinking. And I think that is what we talked about, going back after we get the zone, you know, possibly going back after the unified development regs gets through, after the plan gets through, go back and take a closer look at some of these housing issues, some of the things that we could do or shouldn't do, and so that we, you know, and take stock of actually what is happening in Bristol now with, you know, existing duplexes, existing apartment buildings, and, you know, how does that work and how do we make that work in a good way? And just looking at reviewing setbacks in certain districts is kind of vague. I think it's a bigger task and that would fall under it.
So in general, when I looked at this thing, anything that was in yellow, I wasn't in any sort of disagreement that we could drop them. And there was a few other things I suggested dropping as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about. So,
yeah.
Do you not want me to, should I not read all of them? I just thought, if someone has a concern with something in this section, let me know. How about that?
So the only question I have on that, on number 2, the new number 2 in red, is 5 years is the schedule.
Oh.
That seems a long time.
Did I put that in?
A lot of the seniors will be gone by the time.
That's right, wouldn't they? Let's give it a 3. Well, I don't know. Look how long this plan's taken.
Yeah, but we're getting better at it.
You're new.
Yeah, I'd actually interpreted the 5 years as a plan cycle, but
it's 8 years. Plan cycle is 8 years.
Yeah,
okay. But you don't want to wait for a new plan to update the zoning regulation. That's really an ongoing process, right?
Well, yeah, the zoning should be more of an ongoing process. Okay, and I thought it would be, actually, I added the housing study because I think that, honestly, I think that's what needs to come first. I think that's something that'd be great to do, to just really see, what I don't really know what that is, but really take, like what do we have? What do we need in Bristol? I mean, there are definitely needs in Bristol. And
absolutely. It's one of those where you gather data and then make intelligent decisions.
And is that, that might be a grant, maybe, it says planning commission, but it probably would be a, maybe, I don't know how you would do that, but I mean, you'd get a consultant maybe, or you would get a committee, or you'd form a committee and do a survey, there's a lot of information out there. And I think it would be good, and it'd be good for everyone in Bristol to know, what the situation is.
I agree totally.
Should that be the first item?
I don't really think these are pecking order,
Okay.
but I could.
Though I don't want to imply that you have to finish the housing study before you do anything else.
But you should finish the housing study before you update the zoning regulations, actually.
No. Can you wait that long? No.
Probably not. You can do it at the same time. All right.
But the actual changes that occur in the use of the housing stock are quite gradual and incremental.
Right.
I think you all know that I'm very skeptical about zoning that would greatly increase density in the village. I think the single family style, in some cases it's two family, has served us well. I certainly support the housing study, and we can test our hypotheses to see what the needs really are.
Yeah, I think that's important, because as people have, I mean, you have a lot of people living in your house, Bill.
I do. It's certainly high density right here. One, two, three, 4 generations, would you believe it?
That's excellent.
Little house on the prairie here.
Yeah, well. So I guess it's all how the walls are arranged.
Yeah, sometimes the walls aren't thick enough. But I do think that we should include in the study we should test the hypothesis as to how people feel about increasing density. I think we might be surprised.
Yeah, density is a scary word to a lot of people, that I'm learning.
Yes, it is. And we can find different words, but it's the idea I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that's important. It's important to know what we have, and also that also relates to setbacks. A lot of the setbacks that we have for certain districts are not, especially the historic districts, are really different from what actually exists. And sometimes they are just in zoning regs because they just got inherited from some other place. Sometimes. But anyways, so if everyone's good with that, that section, do you want to move on?
Well, so I'm just looking at your population and housing profile that you dated 6/2/2020, and your goals and your policies. And
are you going to the plan?
I assume, yeah, that's the plan section of it. It was sent out. I mean, you've got your first goal is to increase the supply of available and appropriate housing to meet the needs of Bristol's population. You've got 6 policies listed there. And goal 2, ensure that Bristol's housing stock provides for all segments of the community, and you've got 6 policies there. Goal 3 is collaborate with public and private organizations to develop solutions for current housing. And goal 4 would be to promote initiative for sustainable planning, design, construction of homes in order to achieve energy efficient goals, reduction of housing costs, and minimal I mean, I can go on and on, but each one of those has 5 to 6 policies, but yet your task list is 4 things. You got a lot in here and not a lot of tasks to try to achieve your goals and your policies.
Well, typically in plans, it's kind of how it like if you were looking at a lot of the plans in the county, there's a lot of policies. We're not going to, the implementation is what do we want to basically pick some top ones, make it achievable in 1 to 5 years.
Right.
This is what I have learned.
So, I mean, I look at the first one, and what I think it was in the last plan as well, is talk about your first goal and your first policy, promote changes in municipal infrastructure, septic and water and regulatory mechanisms to support compact mixed-use development and increased density in the village center areas. So
I'm not looking at that right now. I can't see that. So is that a goal or a policy? That's a policy, right?
Yes. So I don't know. It just feels like there's a huge disconnect between your goals and your goals, your policies, and your tasks. Like I said, you've got
right now
12. You've got almost 25 policies, and you've got 4 tasks. If you completed your 4 tasks, almost none of your policies would be addressed.
Okay, so this seems more well. All right. So, Chris, what are you trying to say? We should have talked about this ahead of time instead of now.
Honestly, this is the first time it took me 10 minutes to find this document, but whatever.
Well, it's in the plan. Okay, I don't want to get.
So I was going to have
fine, Chris, but you're sort of now criticizing the plan as the zoning administrator now, and that's not really helpful for me. It's fine if you want to talk about that, but I can't.
The plan is correct. The plan the plan that you have is going in the right direction. The piece that you're discussing tonight, which is the document that was sent out last week, is the piece I'm talking about now. The goals in your policies are great. I'm not discussing those. I'm just stating that in your tasks, you're not addressing your goals and your policies to meet the. So,
fine. So
I voiced my opinion. I'll sit back and let you all continue.
Other people can suggest tasks if they would like to do that to respond to Chris. Because
I was going to have this. I had the same question about whether we had enough implementation tasks to address the goals, because even with just 3, that doesn't even address the 4 goals that we have. And I know we already kind of went past it, but my feeling on the first one is that senior housing should not be singled out when the goal is appropriate housing that meets the needs of the population of the town instead of just one segment of that population.
That's great.
So,
so let me just say, you guys have had this for a while. It's not me, doing this. We're a body here. We're a whole commission, and that's great to get that feedback from you. We were moving on, and I hadn't gotten it from you. I want more feedback. I feel.
I was waiting my turn and trying to get in there.
Thank you. All right, I didn't mean to get defensive, but I feel like a lot of this has been on me, and it's a lot. Let's get that on paper. I need my typist, Andrew, because I'm not very good at this.
I just signed on.
Good. Okay, well, I actually backed off on the tasks a little bit because I felt that I was doing too much on this and not getting enough feedback. So I'm happy for other people's input. So Rob had a comment about, where are we? Where are we, folks? Bill?
Number 1.
Right. Did you get any of that, Bill Brown?
I got it. It's
All right.
Not just elders, but all residents of Bristol. to be
Okay.
included in that.
All right, I'm giving you the mic, Andrew.
All right. Those are not my kids in the background.
Yeah, right. They're Bill's, Sayers.
Oh, okay.
But I will point out it is, Katie, it is a single family home.
Yeah, well, it all
One
depends where the
family.
walls are. Or are there any walls?
There's a few.
All right. So can you bring me up to speed? So we're on.
Okay, we just started going through the implementation section. We were looking at population and housing. No one has a problem with the yellow guys coming out. But there were comments that compared to our goals and policies or goals and objectives in the housing section, that these tasks don't really reflect that, and there needs to be a little bit more. Not that they don't reflect it, they just don't
Match up.
cover.
Yep.
Maybe there should be how many goals? I don't have that document here, and I can't switch back and forth that easily. Do you have that document?
Yes, but it might take me a second.
Right. Well, anyways, so we need to look at that a little more closely.
And presumably that would apply to the rest of them as well. So.
And so we have a change to the first.
I mean, Rob's suggestion was that, I hope I got this right, Rob. Develop a plan for all Bristol residents that addresses housing needs or something to that effect. Was that right, Rob?
That's what I was going for. Maybe develop a plan for housing.
I'm gonna get the
Housing. So, I just keep trying to, for the entire population, trying to get towards something that more addresses that. If we're going to have one task for each goal, it should address the broad goal instead of one small point in each goal, since they all have 5 or 6 items, was my feeling on that.
Right. I mean, I think the idea is to have it to be pretty as focused as possible, obviously. And it may be that I think elder housing is a focus of at least some of the state recommendations, but whether that applies in Bristol, I mean, if that is not the case, or if there is a wider population, then maybe taking a step back. So it's, a study of what the housing needs are, if it's not specific to elder housing, or lower income housing, or, some of the groups that may have challenges, and maybe there's not a need, maybe, but I imagine that there are. So, but I think developing, if we can say it in a way that's like developing a plan for housing for all demographic groups in the village planning area or something to that effect, I think makes sense, but I'll leave it up to you guys whether to make it a little more vague than elder or senior housing. It looks like, at least the screen I see, elder is crossed out for senior.
So this piece actually addresses goal 2 in your list, which is the proper housing stock goal that you had established early on.
right goal 2. We have one of the policies encourage housing that supports aging in place. I mean, we could, if we wanted, as a sort of policy for each section, we discuss, have the same number of tasks as we do goals, and just sort of make more of a generic,
I guess that's my question. I kind of back up and have a little bit of philosophical discussion about, do we need is there anything that says we have to have a task for every policy or goal or anything, or are
No, we have to have an implementation section.
So
we
then
have to have a plan, and in many towns, they choose a handful of things that their board is going to work on in the next, they have first year, what do we want to, what is our highest priority of all these things that we think should happen? And what is our first year, you know, what are our goals for the first year? What are our goals to like
okay.
5, 8?
So then the other thing is, I was accused of being a minimalist, I think our last meeting, because I was saying a lot of our goals are fluffy. So I guess I'm sort of thinking maybe there's a distillation process that.
Well, I think here's where we become less fluffy.
Exactly.
Not fluffy, aspirational.
Right.
Fluffy.
Well, it goes from the concept to the actual task. And here's the task. It's, you know, it's hard to grasp sometimes, but it should be a level of specificity when you get, it's more concrete, it's more specific when you get to the task. So, as I said, this was not a completed, you know, basically this was existing implementation, and it's our board together that we decide, you know, with input from other people. You know, the select board necessarily hasn't gotten we haven't gotten any feedback from them, but we can decide what we want to put in here. And if it is not, if, you know, other members of the community feel differently, we'll hear about it in the public hearings. But we don't have to have a goal for every section. We can structure it differently. This is just how it was from before.
Yeah, a lot of this is carried over from the pre-existing one, obviously.
So, how do you want to move forward?
So I think I handed this out very early on with some of the goals, objectives, policies, actions, but they had some examples, and maybe I could put those in the chat of some of their examples. But basically, they're looking for concrete activities that can be described as specifically as possible. It asks that the responsible party, which is basically what we have in the separate column, and a time frame are identified, and in theory, any resources. That gets into a lot more detail. But basically things like programs, plans, any of the concrete steps. I think having some of the ones, if things haven't been done, you know, either to rephrase those in a way that they can, or remove them. Kevin, I think you're right that it should be fairly minimalist. I think, you know, just looking at 2 or 3 per section gets to be fairly overwhelming. So making them as specific as possible is a good idea. And this is, you know, we're basically going sort of an inverted pyramid where our goals are the big things that the town wants to be, and then the policies, you know, would apply to other situations, and then these actions are what basically gets applied by, a lot of it's by you, the planning commission, although some of it's obviously asking the select board and other folks to do things. So trimming and being specific is good. I think, you know, if designing a plan for all people in housing within the village planning area, or even the entire town, is too broad, narrowing it to a specific group is not a bad idea, on the assumption that is probably going to be in conversation with, you know, housing for other folks, but taking some of those bite-sized chunks for a 1-year or a 3-year timeline, I think keeps it from being too overwhelming. I could maybe in the chat, would it be helpful to post the goals that we have so far from housing, or kind of step through them one by one and think about
What I
whether
have them,
for each one?
I can share them. Do you see them? Or I'm not sharing that.
I see the action.
Yeah, I can share that as well if we need to. I was going to say the third task on here, conduct a housing study to identify the housing needs of the Bristol community, kind of takes care of everything in a way, because there seems to be some question. I mean, there is question. What do we need? And then how do we go about it?
So does it make sense to flip that, to put that one first?
Or only have that one in housing? I mean, we don't have to structure it with these sections. We can just make a list. Is that, I mean, I guess that's the first question. Do we want to have a task for every single section? We do not need to. How do people feel about that? Kevin?
I talk too much, so have somebody else go first.
Well, I'm talking way too much, so I'd rather have.
Well, I've got a comment there. It appears to me, just in the scope of everything, that this phrase was made earlier, that it is a little overwhelming. And I agree with Kevin that you keep it minimal with the realistic goals. I think we're off. So this is better as far as I'm concerned.
So a task per goal? Is that what you're saying, Tom?
Well,
action.
And I listened to Andrew there too, and it sounds like there's a particular format for this whole thing. And then if you have to have these pieces, then it just adds to the puzzle. But again, if they're not necessary, then that's fine. Makes me wonder that, okay, we have certain things. Once we get this job done as far as redoing the whole plan, and then it sounds like our job is to go ahead and make some of these things happen over the next 8 years or whatever. So yeah, if we've got some reasonable goals that we can actually accomplish, that's better than having a whole bunch of stuff just hanging out there.
Well, I agree. And I think a lot of plans do have a lot of implementation steps that never get done. And well, even this, I mean, this plan did. If there's a lot of them, it seems to make more sense to have less and actually get them done.
It goes back to the aspirational thing again. So that's all great stuff. If it's not realistic, then why do it?
I think. Go ahead.
For this first section, if you got a housing study and identified the needs, then you could pick some of these other things out, like senior housing or whatever, for things to work on when you had the information and then the needs. So that might give you a starting point for this.
I think that's a good idea.
So I think that whatever we have for, going back to the format thing, I think whatever we have for tasks, they should be clearly tied back to whatever section. So, I mean, the format that we've got here seems okay. And I'm not so sure if we've got one, well, let's say municipal facilities and lands. If we don't have anything, can we just say NA or something there, or just leave it out, or what? You know, I don't think, it doesn't sound like we have to have something necessarily in each box.
I mean, technically, when these plans get reviewed for regional approval, you just have an implementation plan. You have a plan that you've decided as a board to get certain tasks done. It doesn't have to cover the whole scope of your plan. It doesn't have to be a certain amount. It's, a reasonable, to-do list. No one comes back and checks on it either. So it does make sense to have some clear tasks that people are interested in achieving, and are not too overwhelming. I think you could just, you could say NA or we can figure something out, or we just don't list it. We just take that section out. And the next rendition of the plan, you can put it back in.
I have a question, Katie. The way you have it here with the red added and the yellow deleted. This is except for the red. If I understand this correctly, this is the old implementation plan. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
That's how you did it, right?
Yep.
Andrew.
Yep. So yeah, yellow highlighted is ones that we thought were appropriate to, I thought, and consulted a little bit with Katie, but whether it was appropriate to remove or whether it was done. And then the red text is added. It looks like there's one place in economic development where it, for some reason, got highlighted with both, and that one should just be added. And
what I was trying to figure out is it's clear that the last implementation plan did not match every goal. But I'm still, I mean, Kevin raised this question, what exactly is the implementation plan intended? Is it, the plan lasts for how long? 8 years?
8 years.
Yep.
So, I mean, there are different ways you could do something like, what do you plan to do for the next 8 years? But that's ridiculous, because who knows what you want to do in 5 years. So is the intent here to pick out the things you immediately want to work on, or some things which can be
yes, maybe shorter term, 1 to 2 years, and then maybe longer, 3 to 5 years, or 3 to 8. Now it just changed. It used to be a 5-year cycle. Now it's an 8-year cycle. That's why the 5 is in there. And some things are going to take longer. Some things you're not going to get to right away. So say, for example, in housing, you conduct a housing study first year. And then you say, update zoning regulations to allow for a variety of zoning types to serve the needs of the people. Whatever, 2 to 8. That's an ongoing thing. It's something like that. So does that help?
Yeah, because I don't think there's a one-to-one match between goals and tasks.
No, I don't think so either.
No, and I don't think there's intended to be.
So I'm trying to figure out what the relationship is between the goals and the task. The time frame is so long, potentially so long.
I mean, honestly, I think that we should have been looking at this from the very beginning, but this is what happens when plans get updated. Certain sections get updated and you get money to update a certain section, but then while you're doing it, there's all this outdated stuff. You got to fix that. And then you get to a section like this, which is really, what are we going to, you have a whole different group on the board, and this is like, well, how are we actually going to do it? And this is a little bit more of the overall, the actual work that we can do other than writing about it. So like the projects, what can we push forward? What's the next step of planning? What's important? So, I mean, I think there's a lot of leeway. I think we as a board should just say what we think is important and try to come to some sort of agreement in this section.
I mean, one way, I'm just thinking out loud now, but updating zoning regulations would probably meet a number of the goals, right?
Right.
So you don't have to include every goal in that.
We're doing it. We're going to we're just doing that now.
Yeah. But
the zoning regulations cover a lot of issues, not just housing.
Right. Well, I'm even wondering if it should be, update zoning regulations to meet plan goals. Which then covers, and you could say, and then you could, under that, you could have A, B, C, D, elder housing, variety of housing types to meet different needs. You want to do it that way. Maybe you don't need to be that specific because it's already in the plan and the goals.
How about if we go through each section and we kind of get an idea from the board of what would be the most important thing per section, and then we can rewrite it in 1 or 2 tasks. What do you think about that, Andrew?
Sounds like a great strategy.
Are you serious? What do you think about that, members of the board?
No, I think maybe having sort of a short-term, long-term for each one and narrowing it down to even like 2 per section. The way the municipal planning guide recommends is sort of a 1 to 2 year, 3 to 5 year, 5+ year. And 5+ years obviously starting to get a little fuzzy in terms of, what's actually going to need to get done. So I think sort of 1 to 2 year, and then maybe 1 more beyond that. And something like doing a housing study first, maybe in 1 to 2 years to give yourself some flexibility. And then, if necessary, updating zoning regulations or planning for more specific segments of the population, and kind of moving from, 1 short term and 1 longer term and keeping it manageable. And also keeping in mind how many of these responsible party list planning commission, and I imagine that even if you really wanted to, it would be impossible to hit all of the ones that were in the previous plan. So I am quite okay with limiting those. But I think trying to have at least 1, if not 2 per section is not a bad idea, just to show some, movement. And then if something becomes available, if a grant becomes available, or students offer to do projects, or the select board wants to do something, then it's there, and you have basically a suggestion to move forward on. Sort of planted the seed. So,
Rob,
go ahead.
Rob had his hand up.
Oh, I don't see Rob.
Where did Rob go? Oh, there he is.
Here, I was just trying to be a boat anchor on this. So, part with the implementation table, we spend a lot of time in the plan and the goals and the policies, adding in items that there was much discussion about who would actually handle this and would be doing this, when it was things that were expressly outside of the planning commission's scope and purview. And if those aren't addressed in the implementation table at all, what do they really belong in the plan, or should we be addressing those in the implementation table so that it's not a wasted thing?
Katie, do you want me to?
Wait, so you're saying if they're not in the implementation table, is the plan that doesn't give it any backbone, basically?
So as we were going through this, there were some things that we talked about, who would actually be doing that. And we said, oh, we would handle that in the implementation table. It would be assigned to this group or that group.
Right.
Things like in this section, the population and housing, things like the infrastructure stuff that is clearly would be
right.
Toward
Well, some of those, yeah, but it's still in the plan. I mean, the plan is the document that we base,
I'm all for being concise and addressing just the things that need to be addressed in this. But I'm just trying to, I'm struggling with how to identify what goes in the implementation versus what doesn't, or does it just not matter and you just pick what you want to do and that's it?
Right. Well, I think mean, there's no way we can implement everything that we've written in the goals and policies. Like in a, you know, a lot of these things are sort of ongoing. A lot of these things are policies because they're not necessarily implemented. They are happening, and we want them to continue to happen. We believe it's the right thing for the town. A lot of them are implemented just in our zoning, or the whole zoning, the whole unified development regs, because basically that's the implementation plan for the plan in our zoning doc, because that's how, I mean, but it doesn't, you know, some things aren't affected by it, but a lot are. And basically the zoning implements the plan. So, but here I think this is kind of a opportunity to say, and this is, you know, the state has, you know, guidelines for reviewing plans, and it says it wants to know that the town is sort of focused on doing certain specific things.
So Andrew had some comments too.
Excuse me?
I think Andrew had some comments.
What, on what Rob asked?
I don't know what Rob asked, yeah.
Okay. Andrew?
Oh, at this point, I don't.
All right, he asked me to speak to that, so that's why I'm speaking.
I mean,
maybe I'll put my mute on.
I agree that, you know, there are some things that we listed even in the housing, like exploring rental assistance programs and some other things that probably are not going to be done by the Planning Commission. So it's okay to not include those in implementation or take them out. And, you know, there are some things that are basically assigned to other committees or select board or environmental or conservation commission or other folks that probably needs input from them to see whether they're willing to do that. I think we were hoping to go through what's already in existence, add some of the things that make sense given the goals and policies, and then allowing, you know, other folks to weigh in. So yeah, this is certainly the part where we don't want this just to be, you know, words for word's sake, or the back page of the plan that never gets looked at, much less the rest of the plan, unless there's an Act 250 or some sort of legal charge. This is meant to be something that is useful. So if there's ways to, you know, if there's things you've thought of, or there's things that concern you or just seem totally impossible, I think going through and maybe not wordsmithing and just trying to do an overview cut on, you know, what should stay in and what goes out is probably not a bad idea. And then if we need to go back and revisit some of them specifically, we can make a note of that and come back. But just to kind of keep the momentum on it, I think, and to try to hit some of our timeline goals, maybe just running through it. And if there are things that we've talked about in previous sessions that don't show up here, I can note those, and, you know, we can do another draft of this and talk through it. So if there were specific things, Rob, that you had in other sections, and we want to kind of go through and bring those up, or maybe Katie, would it work for me to just, I guess I don't know who's screen sharing. I guess it's probably Katie. I keep thinking your name is Sharon, but if it makes sense to note it on your screen. You're muted, Sharon. Katie.
I'll stop sharing the screen and let you share it. Okay? So I can give you that.
Yes.
So I didn't really have anything specific, but when we're
Right.
talking about housing and increasing density and everything else, especially within the village area, some of the items that we have are speak to infrastructure. And so in order to increase density and volume of people and everything else, you're going to need that infrastructure to do that as well. So, and that was something that would be another entity. So I was just speaking more in general to that kind of stuff,
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we don't necessarily have to have an action for every policy. It is supposed to be there as guidance. But if there's specific things that brings up, that I guess we could go either way. So we could either remove the policy or ignore it in terms of actions, or come up with something that would fit that for everyone. But I'm not sure, if we have 4 goals and 20 policies under those goals, we sure as heck don't want to come up with 20 actions for each of those policies, and probably not even 4 for each of the goals. But I think going through it and doing a fairly quick inventory of what we've got and what needs to go, because we were, I think, trying to be somewhat clearing out as many as we could while doing this, but obviously there's quite a few left. So I'm okay with doing a cutting session if folks want to work on that. Katie, let me see if I can
co-host. I made you co-host. You can share the screen.
Okay. I'm going to try to do this and we'll see if it works. Okay. Can folks see my screen at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
I just have one question. Are we inserting this really to appease the state and make sure that they check off that we did this? I mean, this really doesn't change what we've done, nor is it going to motivate us one way or the other. I would just like to answer that question.
It's a required part of the plan. To get regional approval, you have to have it. It's one of the requirements of a town plan. It's not appeasing the state. It is a requirement. You would not get regional approval if you didn't. You have to, it doesn't have to be in this format. You don't even actually have to have, you have to say somewhere in your plan, because Virgin's plan, because I'm doing a lot of this plan review now, so I understand how I've seen different examples of it. Virgin's just did a great plan. They did not have an implementation section, but at the end of each of their sections, they, listed, they made it very clear, it was very clear the certain actions that they wanted to take. It was a little harder to, it was their interpretation of it, and.
Okay, I understand where we're going here.
Because they wanted this, the idea is that it's a plan that gets used. It's a working document.
I know, but for us in the Planning Commission, we're working on it anyway. So, I mean, if we went to the first section, I would, to simplify this whole thing, we will have a housing study that will inform us on the needs of the community, e.g. elder housing, period, end of story. Go to the next section. If we try to get into all of this minutia, we're going to be at this till October.
No, I agree. It's just,
so why can't we just?
It's just like we need to do it as a group, not, we just said, okay, here, this is where we're at. Let's work through it. I think we're all kind of in agreement. We just need to clarify what it is we feels most important. That I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
I think if we take this as it's a requirement, let's just do the requirement, consolidate as much as possible each one of these points, and maybe have one maximum of 2 in each section.
That sounds good to me.
Very good, simple.
Okay, so I think we kind of know what we want in the first one.
Yeah, so it sounded like maybe.
And I don't think we really need to rewrite it all here, do we? Or if you can do it.
So if I may, my suggestion for that first section would be 2 goals. The first one being the study, or 2 tasks rather, and the second one being update zoning regulations to allow for variety of housing types in the village planning area to accommodate, and then the all segments of the community.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Clear, and it follows.
Okay, something like that. I'm going to highlight this one to remove.
On that second one, do we want to limit it to the village planning area though?
No.
Look at the town.
We don't need to. That seemed to be the focus of some of
I
this.
don't think you need to say either. Just you can just take out in the town.
Yeah, just make it general.
Okay. Does that work? I'll just change the numbers so I'm not trying to
Yeah, okay.
move things around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, folks all right with moving on to scenic, historic, and cultural resources?
Yep.
So the reason the maintain is changed, it initially said create inventory. I don't know, have you guys, I assume you guys have not created an inventory of significant historic structures, sites, and districts, but that does exist somewhere.
Right.
Possibly the Historic Society.
I mean, maintain sounds right.
These next 2 were to basically, I changed them from Planning Commission to Historical Society because it seemed like things that you guys were probably not going to want to be doing in terms of providing technical assistance and continuing education, but we could also remove those if that's.
Good job if they're willing to do it.
That sounds reasonable.
All right, and then this last one, which I believe was carried over from the last plan, identify and maintain inventory of significant public scenic resources. Is that a project you guys want to take on or something to remove that's probably not going to get done in the next 1 to 8 years?
That sounds good.
Well, I think here, well, this one, I think we might want to just say, what do we think is most important instead of having, we just said, let's keep it simple. We have 4 that are kind of all, not all doing the same thing, but you could probably get it.
No, I'm suggesting remove these middle 2.
Okay.
And then potentially to work with the Conservation Commission to inventory or to identify, maybe not even maintain inventory of, just identify significant public scenic resources.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's good.
Great.
5+ years. You guys have I don't think ongoing is the right. 3 to 5. We'll say 1 to 5. How about that? All right. Look how fast that was and how much trimming we've done.
Rock and roll.
All right. So municipal facilities and lands. I'm going to make this a little bigger if I can. Can folks still see that?
Yeah.
Municipal facilities and lands. 1, review and inspect all town facilities and buildings periodically, ensuring that insurance and maintenance protects the town's investments. That was assigned to the select board as an ongoing task. Is that?
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Develop long-term plan for major renovation if needed of all the town-owned buildings. We updated what the town-owned buildings actually are, and including schedule and possible funding sources.
Do you want to include all the town buildings or just a couple examples thereof?
I guess I would leave that up to folks. I think probably not a bad idea. Well, I mean, we will cover them in that municipal facilities and land section. So
Not sure why you need examples there. You said all town-owned buildings.
I think because
Okay.
we had a conversation early on about the town shed. That's when I got put in.
maybe not EG, but especially the town garage. I don't know if those are the highest priorities.
I don't know what's going on with that. Do you, Chris?
Yeah, there's actually, they've hired a consultant to redesign that entire area, to do an evaluation of it and study. It's in the works to tear down the two buildings and potentially replace them with a single structure. So that's where I was going with this one is I'm not sure why to call those out specifically.
Because I think we talked about it. I think we talked about it originally and it just stayed in there and then we put it in there. So I don't think we should.
I agree. I think it should be more general and just that it's, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in 5 years? It should be all buildings.
I agree with Kevin.
Yeah, it was in there because there was nothing, because this is a new thing since the last time and it got put in their goals and policies. So
Isn't this all under select board duties anyway, keeping track of town inventory and so forth?
Yes.
I don't know if we even need to put it in the plan. That should be ongoing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot.
yeah, I don't see if
It
it's
should be,
something is
but-
select board duty. Yeah, why are we even listing it?
I think so they can't get rid of it as a duty.
Oh.
If we're going to maintain municipal facilities and lands, we do want somebody to be responsible, and we don't want them to assign it to you guys.
No.
Okay, so the sprinkler systems is something that is not carried over, but that's from the local hazard mitigation plan. So I added that for discussion. It should be in red.
I think that's still under the purview of the select board as keepers of the buildings and town safety and so forth.
Yeah, I tend to think that's way too detailed for this type of document.
I agree. The others are would have little detail, and this is very specific.
Okay. All right, are folks okay with having those two actions, or does anybody feel the need to have more for municipal facilities and lands? Something for the planning commission?
I think you can just say it falls under the purview of the select board because we don't have anything to do with it. It's an ongoing thing for them among their regular duties.
Right.
I think
So do you think we shouldn't have it in there at all?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is one of those things that's probably been in there a long time. I don't know if it was in there in the plan before this.
It's true, I didn't go back that far.
Well, if we go back far enough, then apparently they aren't doing it. Anyway.
All right.
Okay. Do we need to have a bigger discussion about that?
I don't think at the time it's not well spent.
Okay, that's fine. All right, you okay with that, Lloyd?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Okay, so if we're mostly okay with having a couple in that section that are not in the planning commission's purview, if we can move on to economic development. So these top four, I was recommending removing. I am not sure if they've actually been done, but assessing the needs of existing and potential light industry, that does sort of parallel the housing plan. if planning for light industry was something that the planning commission wanted to try to do in the next few years.
But we've done that. I mean, that's Stony Hill. That's, I mean, not that it can't continue, but we've just made sort of a big strides with that.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process with us.
But I don't think we need to have it in here because.
Okay.
Well,
hearing nobody strongly in favor of keeping it.
Well, maybe, I mean, maybe the first one, not the second one, I don't think we need.
The feasibility of establishing a site.
Just
it's redundant. I mean, we're not going to get into the excruciating details in this document.
All right. If I just keep moving ahead, so definitely remove 2.
Yeah.
Say maybe 1 right now. Consider using real estate tax abatement, tax stabilization, or other local property tax relief mechanisms to encourage development of a light industry, industrial park, incubator, or business park.
I don't know how we interface with all of that.
All right. So you're okay removing it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I am. Okay. Explore commercial building codes that would include, I don't know how much exploration you guys want to do, but I'm assuming that it's probably okay to remove that one.
Yeah, that's basically included in all new construction and remodeling and everything like that. I think that's a Vermont law 2015 or 16, something like that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So these ones are possibilities. So support Bristol Core and Bristol Revolving Loan Fund through town appropriations and involvement to attract new businesses and support existing businesses. So this was to meet one of the goals of attracting new businesses and supporting new businesses as a mechanism for doing that. Maybe too specific, but, or it could be worded slightly differently as an action. Anybody have an opinion? Or
who would that be assigned to?
Probably, I would assume select board.
Those are both taxpayer funded entities. So yeah, at a minimum, the select board.
Yeah.
And it's more of an ongoing. All right. So again, these are worded more as policies, but just to find ways to have a tangible action, continue to support additional small to mid-sized commercial and light industrial businesses that are compatible with the character of the town. I think that's taken directly from the policies from that section.
I mean, doesn't the one above that basically do the same thing? I mean, other than it's townwide instead of just being very specific.
Yeah.
The support the Bristol Core.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think in terms of redundancy.
Well, isn't Core just involved with the design review district?
Yes.
So I think this one is more broad-based, and to me, the second red item allows us to get rid of the first item in the yellow that I think we were holding on to.
The assessing the needs.
Yes.
Is there a way to make this one, because continue to support is pretty vague? Could we kind of combine them to say assess the needs of small to mid-size commercial?
I mean, that's a better task by either doing a study or doing a needs assessment of what's required in town or what's available in town is actually a lot better than just to support. I mean, yeah, support's just not a great task.
Or do you need to conduct a needs assessment, or do you need to assess? Or can you just assess?
Or assess the needs?
Yes. Because that tells me you're going to end up with a report after you hire a consultant.
Yeah, I agree.
This seems like a planning commission task to me, but unless folks have a stronger feeling about that.
So it goes back, I guess where my question was, if you're doing number 2 that you've created here, this one,
Yep.
is the one above it actually a necessity because it's sort of redundant, other than that one focuses in really specifically on the downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Because the core is just the downtown Main Street area, and the second one is your whole town, and that would be my only concern.
So the one with Bristol core, I feel may be appropriate because one of the goals is to achieve and maintain 100% occupancy in the downtown business district. So,
I mean, we could make that more specific in the downtown or downtown district.
My only concern is, so last time we wrote this document, the group was called the Bristol Downtown Community Partnership. Now, since then, it's been rebranded as CORE. So to call out a group by name doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It would be support the something along like support the, I don't know, but just calling out it by name it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
So something like attract new businesses and support existing businesses using through town appropriations and involvement.
Well, I think would it work, Chris, if you just changed core to the, what is it, downtown district or whatever it is? Support the downtown development. Whatever the name is for that area.
Yeah, the designated downtown. Yeah, supporting
The designated downtown through appropriations or just to attract new businesses.
The designated downtown is also housing. It's not just businesses.
in the goal, it's called out, it says downtown business district. I don't know if that's correct or not. That's what
I have a comment here too. The focus on just the downtown one block area. There's other businesses outside that they're significant too. So I think it ought to be more townwide than just
right.
a certain
I agree.
business district.
Yeah, and I think the second one comes first because it's more general. And then the supporting the downtown comes under that. Can you have a sub goal? I don't know, 1A.
Just to scroll down because it looks like it got bumped to the next page. Maintain and promote the downtown designation to enhance the economic vitality is related.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost a better task than supporting the corn RLF than.
So maybe start with the maintain and promote downtown designation, or? No,
start with your assess needs. If you eliminated the support Bristol core one and use your maintain and promote the downtown designation to enhance the economic vitality of the downtown area, that meets your goal and it keeps it fairly broad, but yet it has a task related to it.
Right. Would that be select board as well, or would that be more of a Bristol core or some other downtown review board or some other group?
So that's very much like the objectives policies. How's that task? I guess a lot of these, unless it's actual looking at a needs assessment project, to me they seem more like the policies or objectives.
Yeah, these are basically pretty similar to what the policies are, I think.
I thought we were trying to get away from that and just have very specific.
That is true. Are you voting to remove some of these?
I'm just wondering. No.
All right, we kind of skipped over this continued development, but that is not a concrete task. So if folks are okay removing that.
I think when you refer to the revolving loan fund, that's a specific task. Maybe we don't use the term Bristol Core because a revolving loan fund gets applied to more than just the downtown area. Is that correct? I'm not that familiar with it. That's a good thing. You know, even if we could expand on that or something.
So could we say, use the Bristol revolving loan fund to attract new businesses and support existing businesses?
Or it's not really attracting, it's supporting that. Yeah, or I don't know. I don't really know how it works. So
yeah, I mean, I could see something along the lines of use the Bristol revolving loan fund to I had it there for a second, I just lost it. To I'm just reading. Give me a second. Where it is right now is fine.
Maybe start with the assessment and have this be an ongoing use of the Bristol revolving loan fund as something that the select board should continue to do.
Mm-hmm.
Are there next steps on moving on to the Stony Hill development? Are there next steps on that project that are actionable tasks? Because if not, then
no, I don't. No, they're kind of on their own now, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I think you can get rid of that. I think we just those first two.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay.
Maybe keep the next one just so it meets your goal of trying to keep your downtown vibrant.
Right. All right. Just to simplify things, I'm going to go 1 through 3. All right. Folks okay with that for economic development?
Yeah.
And is this downtown designation a task for Bristol Core, or I'm assuming it's not?
Well, Bristol Core is not a government entity anyway, so
True.
it should be a select board.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
the select board is responsible.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do a nice 1 to 5 years and ongoing. Katie?
What?
Sharon? Katie?
Yes.
You look
What?
like you wanted to
You asking me a
jump in.
question?
No.
I was just thinking about economic development and then getting back to the wastewater, you know, sewer and wastewater, which ties into that as well. But I mean, I think that
In terms of
well,
expanding that?
in the old plan, wasn't there a, you know, investigate waste solutions to wastewater, blah, 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 blah. And they have been working on that somewhat. Do you know where they are with that, Chris?
A year ago, we did a very brief study, and in order to get, I can't remember what it was, but a very small wastewater treatment facility, one that would be inadequate for Bristol's need, would cost $1 million. And that's what I remember, and then we just tabled it.
Yeah, and I mean, like right now, there's a bunch of clean water initiatives, and there's a pile of grant money out there.
Yeah.
At least 2 towns in Vermont, I think, just got awarded some huge wastewater upgrade grants.
Right.
So I agree, Katie, that it was in the previous one. I was trying to look it up again. I didn't find it right off, but we discussed years ago having upgrading the septic in the town of Bristol. Because right now, Main Street is pretty much what you see is what you get.
Right.
We have almost no capacity left.
Right. Right. There have been, I mean, people are always working on this and new stuff is coming up. I think it would be good to mention it in here somewhere that we, you know, we don't want to just forget about it. I mean, because there's always new technology, there's always new science, and things it's
It's
possible to upgrade.
it's currently in utilities and facilities.
Oh, is it still there? Okay, that's what we just hadn't gotten there yet. All right.
But
I thought we had missed it.
I mean, it does kind of bridge utilities and
Okay, that's fine.
economic development. So,
Okay, sorry, I got you off track.
but your vote would be to keep that once we get to it.
I guess so.
Okay. For now, okay. Education and childcare, which is clearly the simplest thing to solve going forward. I think everyone knows what that's going to be like. Never. Sorry, that's my parent, the young child voice coming out. Are any of these ones that are helpful to remove, or I mean, there's only 3. I think there might have only been 2 before, and the one in the middle was added.
I don't know what it means. Alternative ways to support the educational infrastructure. Can you give me an example of that?
I cannot.
I didn't put it in there. I don't know what they're talking about.
Someone from your town in the past wrote that.
I mean, is it, print money, or I don't have any idea what that means.
No, I don't know. Maybe Bill would. Bill Sicker.
Idea. I was just going to say tents,
Yeah.
Next.
So is that it?
Take it out.
Is that a vote to remove?
I think it's too long ago. It's out of, it's dated.
So that probably means getting the state to hand out more money. It's probably what it means.
That's right.
But it doesn't come out of my pocket,
You hope.
I would drop it, and if we can't figure out what it means.
Yeah, I'm all for dropping it.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
So if we keep number 2 in, I propose the rewrite of that because the scope should be widened up a little bit.
Well, that was why I emailed you the other day. I wanted to get a goal from this group, like a general goal.
Yeah, this is more of a policy, I guess, as written.
Right, but I think we need to, yeah. I think it's hard right now for the town really to have any specific education tasks. It seems to be so out of our hands. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there, but.
I don't think so. You're right.
I mean, there is a goal thing to do here, which is to determine the 5-town future school structure. But that's the school board and the select board.
Right. I mean, so we can support it. I mean, at least by saying supporting it.
I don't know what support means here. But if you just want to say determine the 5-town future school structure, of course. And that should be done by the school board and the planning commission. And not the planning commission, the select board.
So how I proposed to change it was to support the Mount Abraham Unified School District, MAUSD, because I hate acronyms that aren't defined. School board to determine the 5-town future school structure.
That does it. That's good.
Can you say one more time?
Support the Mount Abe Unified School District, friends, MAUSD. What did I say? In determining the 5-town future school structure.
Yeah, that's good.
And take PC off the.
Yeah, that's like select board and school board. Even the school board is a municipal function, not even though it's not the purview of the town, has representatives, I guess. There is initiative, and I don't know, it's kind of ad hoc right now, but there is initiative to align the school district with towns and other community type members. But it's not going to be a school. It's being kicked off by the school, but the intent is that the school will not maintain the organization of anything that comes from it. Any of that makes sense.
All right, are folks okay with?
Yeah, Kevin's one is good. I don't know about 3.
So childcare needs, I don't know if there's a whole lot of steps that the Planning Commission can take other than, you know, encouraging or allowing more childcare facilities. Again, kind of a big question mark right now as to what that's even going to be or look like in the next
in
3 years.
one way, I mean, that is a zoning. I mean, there is a need for, it's a zoning issue in a way to allow for the uses in certain areas. And so we don't want to inhibit it.
Could we just take out this?
And I don't see why we have Addison County Child Care Services.
Could it just be identify steps that can be taken?
What?
Can it just start with identify steps that can be taken?
Sure.
Yeah, that's better.
There's definitely a need.
And perhaps in the shorter time frame.
Just ongoing. It's good.
All right. Do folks have other ones to add for education and childcare, or things that you think need to be addressed or can be addressed by the Planning Commission? All right. Recreation and healthy living. It's like, so these first 3 have been added. We've sort of got it in reverse order here, where the first 3 have been added and then the later ones are the carryovers. So continue work planning for a new recreation center to replace the aging hub. Should be the Recreation Department and Planning Commission.
I don't know how much the Planning Commission is doing with that, though.
What, number 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know we're not doing anything, so we could support the work.
Yeah, that's really select board and recreation department.
I mean, these are not all tasks that we have to do.
Recreation department is too long. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
So you support the work, not any work planning.
What was that, Bill? And then Rob, I know you're there in the background. I heard you.
It's something like support the work for planning for a new recreational center. We're not really involved in it, as far as I know.
Oh, Rob, did you have something to add?
I had a separate question. I missed last meeting, and I just want to be clear. Are we all done with the rest of the sections of the plan? And this is the final thing we're working on? Or there's still more sections that we need to work through?
We have been through all the sections of the plan, I believe, at this point.
But there's a little cleaning, there's some cleaning up.
Okay, because I don't remember seeing the recreation and healthy living section and the goals of that.
Oh, that was early.
That's why I was asking, or the education, if we ever touched on actually cleaning that up and some of those outdated things that were in there. I just tried looking real quick. I didn't find it. I could just be missing it. If all the other sections are done, is it possible to send out kind of that updated draft all put together? Because we have bits and pieces everywhere. So
yeah, I was going to try to get those posted in one place. I'll probably keep it in separate sections for now, just so it doesn't get to a really long document, but I'll have it ordered basically, section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, or
so
as long as we have access to the updated, because I know we would have a meeting and make some changes and that kind of stuff. As long as we have access to the updated sections, so that to refer to for this stuff would be great.
Okay.
I want to say the recreation and healthy living section was redone. The education and childcare section, we worked on it, but I think some of the goals need to be, and I was going to talk to you, Bill, about that a little bit. We need to clean up some of the goals, specifically because of, all the changes, and not a lot, but it has been cleaned up somewhat. You worked on it. Maybe you and I can talk about that later.
Did you put it in the rewrite that I gave you?
Yeah. And then I added a little bit more after that.
Yeah, we can play with it.
All right. So this first one is basically assigning it to the Recreation Department and Select Board. So not in the Planning Commission purview, but encouraging it to get done. This one, supporting, is still pretty vague and sort of more towards the policy side. Basically implementing the planning and construction or something like that would be more of an action step. Do folks have a feeling about Bristol Trail Network planning and construction?
Again, I would, the only thing I would recommend is removing the Bristol Trail Network name out of it. And if you're going to do it as a task, maybe do it as a more broad task of planning and construction of walking and biking trails throughout Bristol.
The dog likes it.
We've got one vote for support.
Vote for the dog.
Does the Conservation Commission have a role in this?
They don't currently, but I agree, because the town in the last couple of years has purchased a fairly large swath of land down along South 116 along the river, and incorporating that into either hiking or recreation areas would not be a bad call.
Yeah, especially if it's throughout Bristol, then it does seem like they should be.
Yeah, I would think. So I went to one Conservation Commission meeting and someone from the Trail Network came and spoke to them. So there's clearly some ongoing connection.
But we were going to take PC off from that, right?
Yeah, I would take PC off that. It's not our job.
All right, I like this. Okay. Number 3, maintain existing public facilities and outdoor spaces that encourage social and leisure time activities among town residents.
Yeah, the only thing I would say once again is add conservation in this one as well.
Folks all right doing that? Okay, so in terms of ones that are removed, supporting improvement and or development of facilities for cultural organizations, promoting arts entertainment. Not that these wouldn't be done, but just that these don't make sense as tasks to be assigned to folks here in the town plan. Nurture community mindedness.
Number 3, maintain existing, encourage social and leisure time activities. We don't need any of that.
Okay.
That's my view anyway.
So Bill, I shouldn't push you down for nurturing community mindedness?
I don't want to nurture it. No, I don't think that, I don't think we.
No? Okay. All right, let's keep going. Utilities and facilities. Okay, so this is the one that Katie brought up. Might make sense in economic development.
No, I think it's fine here. I thought we had already gone through this section.
Okay, good, because we still need.
Yeah, I like it here better as well.
Okay. And then maintain current operation and maintenance manuals for the town service departments. I don't know if the select board is really the one that does that, or they would.
Maintenance,
Can we back up to number one? Is there any sort of a concept of what that means? Or is that just if we've got a new
When they
development
develop something
over?
that works, we're gonna explore it. I don't know.
We're not gonna be ripping up all the streets in Bristol to put in pipes in the near future then.
No.
Highly doubtful.
No, I mean, what the last time I spoke with, God, I want to say it was probably when Bill was still here, that the vision was to put in a water treatment plant to increase the capacity of the downtown, but yet at the same time evaluate what the needs would be for any village or outlying village residents or business to be able to tie in easily. Great example, one of the big reasons why Autumn Harp left Bristol was there was no sewage capacity and no way to tie in. So that would be scope it and build it big enough, but maybe only be using 25% in the beginning.
So you'd be running pipes from Pine Street and West Street to Main Street.
Yep, and that would fall back on the developer.
Or it could be an independent, smaller scale, like co-housing has their own. It's smaller.
Well, that's in-ground injection though, isn't it?
I believe it is.
Does that make a difference?
Well, that would be a shared system, you know, instead of a community.
Right.
Okay, that's enough.
Is there a better verb than explore there? I think, Chris, you used the word evaluate, or.
Oh no, they're still exploring. I mean, they haven't even.
Okay.
They're so far off from this one. You might as well just leave it explore.
Okay. Folks have any opinions on the rest of these? So 2, I think you said select board, maybe not. I guess they would have oversight of the town service departments. So
yeah, I mean, it really falls under the department heads, but that falls under the purview of the select board.
Right. So some of these, I might ask some of the institutional memory on the committee about this longer one. This doesn't necessarily seem like an action to me, but I get the sense that this was probably inserted for a specific reason about submitting up writing in a plan in writing to the town. That seems maybe something more for zoning, but.
Yeah, I mean, I almost think we've addressed that in like some of the bond requirements now and the subdivision regs and some of the conditional use regs.
Okay, that was sort of the sense I got, but.
I mean, we had a piece on performance bond someplace. I don't remember where.
Okay. So we'll keep that one out, and then since we're keeping the sewage treatment options, has the extending water line to.
It's already done.
All right, that one's easy. Okay. Checking along. But I realize that we're pushing 9:30. So Katie, do you want to keep going? Do we have a choice?
We can decide. It is late.
We want to go to 9:30 and then.
That's only 10 minutes. See what we get in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Might as well.
All right. Review town's present sightline requirements. Has this been done?
Yeah, has that been done? I thought it had been, but I don't know.
No, I mean, everything's just when it was for subdivisions that we relied back on the state requirements. So
we don't need it. Okay.
Correct. One can go.
All right. Recommendations of 2002 parking and traffic study.
I think that's already been, I hope they've reviewed them already.
Oh, dear God, I would hope so.
Okay.
We 18 years to do it.
Yeah, at this point.
Right, if you didn't.
Continue efforts to make the town and village pedestrian friendly and accessible to people with disabilities.
Can we make that pedestrian and bicycle friendly?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, that's good.
Coordinate transportation planning and programming to be compatible with land use planning efforts of adjacent municipalities and ACRPC. I mean, other than that's mentioned in the plan, I don't know that.
Yeah, it's not a very specific task.
No.
I would take that out, honestly. I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Summers, do you want to address making sure that you, and I don't know, maybe it is later on, that your transportation plan or options are
Compatible with your neighbors?
Yeah, so that
Well, there's
we
a
are,
compatibility section. I guess we say that there.
yeah, as long as it's addressed, that I just think that should be addressed to make sure that we aren't coming up with an idea and Starksville's not coming up with an idea.
Well, that's like this section, compatibility is also required. And there is a section that you have to basically say that.
Yeah, but that's mostly about like minimum zoning lots and whether they, I mean, it's not a real detailed section at the moment.
It is a good point that on an ongoing basis, not as far as plan review, because in number 5, which I guess we're taking that anyway, you've got another multi-town coordinational activity going on.
Well, I think it should be coordinate public transportation options with Bristol, Lincoln, Starksboro, and Iceberg.
All right.
Yeah, I like that, Bill, because then you could eliminate number 4 and then just use number 5 is the right answer.
That's a good idea.
That's good.
Okay.
Well, if we go with 5, we're leaving out. We're leaving out the Addison County Tri-Town area.
Right. Actually, I thought that, you know what, I thought that task was specifically relating to the Route 16.
That was an actor. Yeah.
Right. And that has happened.
So coordinate public transportation options for the 5 town areas, something along those lines, because I like the idea of trying to coordinate the 5 town areas into a more cohesive transportation plan.
5 town and
you could almost just say surrounding towns, actually.
Yeah.
And be a little bit, I know we like to be specific, but that little bit of broadness helps on this one.
Good.
Okay.
So should we say coordinate further public transportation options, because we have
Yes.
transportation?
Yep, I like that, Katie. Good call.
All right. Coordinate further.
Okay.
And instead of 4 surrounding towns, just change it with surrounding towns.
That's true. You don't want to be in charge of doing it for everyone else.
Exactly.
All right. Next one, consider options for wider and more accessible shoulders sufficient for safe bicycle or pedestrian traffic along town roads from the village.
We said that in someplace else. Where did we say that?
Up above,
I think it's
number
in that
3.
goals and-
Bike friendly and stuff like that.
Well, this is specific for that route.
yeah, I'm seeing 6 and 7 and 9. No, wait a minute. 6 and 7 and 10 interrelated.
I do too.
And 3.
So let's just have 3 stand.
3,
Eliminate-
to me, 3 talks about Bristol. The other ones are talking about, well, I was going to say the other ones are talking about a broader base through Addison County.
Yeah, I think we can get rid of 7 because then that's also, I mean, that will just be projects if there's road widening or shoulder widening.
Yeah, and that's
They would be independent.
still pretty vague for support.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, number 6 has been, they've studied it. They've released at least 2 different studies on this one and options, and it's gone nowheres. I mean, you can keep it there if you want, but it's been beaten pretty bad.
That seems like a legitimate reason for removal, especially since the step is just consider options.
Well, but we do need to see, we're getting into the policy thing again. We're getting instead of specific projects.
Are there specific projects about widening?
Yeah, number 10. Nominated Bristol representative.
Yeah, no, I agree. Keep number 10.
Because I don't really think we have somebody. Because I
nominate,
and that is actually a good organization that does a lot of stuff, and it's like.
But the cool part is it's not your problem. It looks like the select board and energy committee have to deal with it. So.
Right. Good point.
You don't have to decide it tonight.
Good point. Okay, Katie, so you were saying remove some of the more policy worded ones.
This just has too many things in it,
Great.
I think, as a board, we need to say what is most important to us.
I mean, honestly, number 8 can go away, if you want my honest opinion.
That's something that they're actually working on.
Exactly. The select board's working on that, and it's very active right now. So
well, but that's an easy checkoff. If you change it to select board instead.
Yeah.
That's a gimme.
I guess.
It's always a hot topic every year.
I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
this really should be for the planning commission. I mean, they should be our projects that we maybe coordinate with other people, but we don't. I mean, the select board's working on a lot of other things too. So why are we listing something they're just working on? So take it out. I don't know. I don't see why we need to have it in here.
I agree.
Fine.
All right. Is this support park and ride or commuter parking spaces?
Starting with the word support is a terrible task. So
yeah,
it would be create.
Well,
do we need them?
It would just be designate convenient and accessible space.
Right.
Near the village center.
I don't think that's something that's really necessary right now. Do you? It's not something.
I agree.
It's not needed. I mean, it's not something. That's a carryover too, isn't it?
Oh, very, very much so. That was back from in the 80s when parking rides were the big thing.
Well, I don't think we need that.
Yeah, take that out.
I think you can do it anyway. Eminent domain.
All right.
That's it.
That's it.
What do we got?
9:31.
What do we have left out of 10? 2? Oh.
Energy, public health safety.
No, I mean in transportation.
Oh.
Left.
Oh, just number 10. Yep.
Really? No.
Oh, total? No, we have 3, 5, and 10.
Okay.
Which would obviously become 1, 2, and 3.
All right, it's 9:31.
Okay.
We have this till 10, but we don't have to stay here.
I gotta work in the morning.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
All right, so we should probably stop drinking now then.
Okay.
Done. Do folks want to keep on? I haven't heard a motion to end anything, so I'm gonna keep plowing through until somebody
Well,
says.
Rob, you're shaking your head.
Done.
He's done. Okay, so somebody make a motion because I don't.
Yeah. So make a motion to adjourn so you guys can end this.
I can
The motion to adjourn.
I'll go
Okay,
to.
a second.
Okay.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I will send the updates from this and get the things Rob asked posted.
Thank you.
Thank you.